get the meeting started. Welcome to the February 4th, 2025 City of Oshkosh Plan Commission meeting. We are glad you can join us. I see we do have a quorum. I have a few housekeeping items to go over before we begin. Please turn off or silence all personal communication devices. The applicant and members of the public may speak to any item before the Plan Commission when the relevant item to which you wish to speak is called and public comment is open. Unless an exception is made by the Plan Commission, the following rules will apply. The applicant will be given up to 10 minutes to present any information they wish us to consider. Thereafter, members of the public will be given up to 5 minutes to address the specific item before the Plan Commission. Members of the public may speak only once per called agenda item unless a Plan Commission member requires clarification or wishes to ask you a question. Questions or statements from the audience will not be considered. Only statements from the podium after you've stated your name and provided your address and within the allowed time constraints will be considered. After all community members have had an opportunity to speak on the called agenda item, the applicant will be asked if they have a final statement for the Plan Commission, and then the Commission may take action on that agenda item. The Common Council has adopted rules of decorum for city boards and commissions, and this includes the adoption of a civility pledge. No person shall personally attack a board or commission member, city official, staff, or any other person. No person shall make irrelevant, unduly repetitive, offensive, threatening, slanderous, defamatory, or obscene remarks, or act in such a manner as to disrupt or disturb the orderly conduct of the meeting. This includes hand clapping, stomping of feet, whistling, shouting, and other demonstrations. I thank you all for your understanding, and now on to the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Belleville?
Here.
Miss Davy?
Here.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Here.
Mr. Bowen?
Here.
Miss Shireman?
Here.
Miss Brock?
Here.
Vice Chair Kiefer?
Here.
Chairman Perry?
Here.
8 board members present.
Wonderful, thank you. Approval of the January 21st, 2025 minutes.
Move to accept as written.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on that motion? All right, I'm seeing none, so let's have a voice vote, please. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, the minutes have passed. Thank you. Item number 1 on our agenda is a consent agenda. Any member of the Plan Commission may ask to pull one of the items off of the consent agenda. I will tell you we only have one item on the consent agenda because item B has been pulled. So is there any member of the Plan Commission that wishes to pull item A off the consent agenda? Item A is accept bus shelter easement at 220 Washington Avenue. Winnebago County Human Services Center is the owner. City of Oshkosh is the Transportation Department is the applicant. Nobody is pulling this off. All right, I'm seeing none. Need a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Accept the.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Okay, I'm seeing none. We're going to have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Belleville?
Aye.
Miss Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Miss Shireman?
Aye.
Miss Brock?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Wonderful, thank you. Item number 2 is exterior design standards variance for a building addition at 1485 West 20th Avenue. BLD Properties LLC is the owner. RH Design Build LLC is the applicant. Have there been any site inspections? Okay, those are so noted for our record. I will accept the staff report as part of our record. Please present your summary.
Thank you, Chairman. Subject site consists of a single lot that is approximately 1.55 acres in size and is located on the south side of West 20th Avenue on the east, and is east of West South Park Avenue. The site includes a restaurant, currently known as the Hangar Bar and Grill. There's an outdoor seating area and some parking lots. The property is located within the suburban mixed-use zoning district, and the 2040 comprehensive plan recommends interstate commercial for the area, or for this specific site. The surrounding area consists of other commercial uses, and the Whitman Regional Airport is directly to the east. In 2022, the applicant, RH Design Build LLC, applied for and was issued a commercial building permit to remove an existing canopy and install a new canopy over the existing patio area. The proposed and approved plans were for a 26 by 32 canopy along the back portion of the building. As proposed, the canopy was open on all four sides and contained a roof with the necessary interior supports. No exterior materials were proposed at this time besides a metal roof. In 2024, planning staff were made aware that the canopy was enclosed with garage-style doors on 3 sides, with the 4th side being the rear wall of the existing building. Additionally, there was a new bar constructed within the enclosed area, and so now because that was enclosed, it is considered a building addition. Upon inspection of the addition, staff discovered that the exterior of the new addition was sided with corrugated metal, and it did not match the existing building's decorative concrete block facade. At this time, staff contacted the property owner to make them aware of the needed design standard variance for the exterior materials on this new addition. And according to the applicant, the corrugated metal panels were intentionally used because that material is typically found with aircraft hangars, and that is the theme of the establishment, the hangar. So staff evaluated the new addition and the impacts of the exterior materials that were used in regards to the intent of the city's exterior design standards. And in working with the applicant, we considered the location of the site, the location of the addition, i.e. the back of the building, and the character of the surrounding properties. So staff is of the opinion that the exterior materials used for the addition, the vertically oriented corrugated metal, will not have a detrimental impact on the overall appearance of the site because the addition is on the back of the building and mostly out of the public realm's view. Furthermore, the adjacent properties are situated as such, as you can see on the image above, that the public facing sides of those entrances are opposite of where this addition is located, further kind of shielding where this is located on the back of that building. So again, this is not a traditional building addition, as it was built to enclose an outdoor seating area, but can be opened up with garage doors on warmer days. So it's a little different than a typical addition as well. So with all that, staff does recommend approval of the variance with the findings listed in the staff report.
Thank you very much for your report. Plan Commission, do you have any technical questions of the planning staff? Ms. Davy?
Am I correct in understanding that there was no additional permit of any kind pulled for the addition for the rest of this?
Yeah, I should add that any necessary building permits will be required if they haven't been issued yet for any plumbing or anything else that building code requires.
So we're only considering the exterior
Materials.
material?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Kiefer?
Had this gone through the proper procedures on this, is this material, would that have been acceptable? It would have been a variance, because of the type of material it is?
We're treating it as if it hasn't been completed yet. So if they were to propose this in a building permit request, we would have informed them at that moment that it would need an exterior design standard variance.
Any other technical questions from Plan Commission? Okay, I'm seeing none. I will allow public comment on this agenda item, and I will open the public comment period. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to make a statement?
Yes.
Approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
Susan Hirschberg, RH Design Build, Oshkosh.
Lisa Marshall, owner of the hangar, 1485 West 20th.
So like was described, this was typically an outdoor just structure patio open. But as Lisa can talk about, they've had problems with homeless actually breaking into the space and occupying the space. So they decided to enclose it, and that's kind of what brought us here today. I guess my purpose is just more or less to describe the materials and how we feel it's very similar to like a tiki bar or some sort of that nature. Like if you're on the river, you see a tiki bar, or on the water, where this is, next to the airfield. So it's hangar bar, and that's the general feel of the exterior of the material.
Yeah, originally I still regret having to enclose it. The bar is a concrete bar. It wasn't, the original plans were not to be enclosed. So after the coolers kept getting breaking in 3 different times and replacing those, it was like, we got to you put up security cameras. That does nothing. They're leaving the sink waters on overnight, so you have to make sure the employees are turning the water off every night. And the other businesses around there it's gotten better, but 2 years ago it was pretty bad with the homeless starting fires behind the BP, the gas station, or the laundromat. So we were just kind of in a quick thing to do, put the garage doors up, and they still try to break in those. They're pried open, and there's no heat out there. It's just supposed to be a summer patio bar type thing. So that whole enclosure was, I guess, an expensive security measure, and we should have looked into it a little bit more with the permits and whatnot. So I regret not doing that. It isn't fully attached to the building. There is space along there if you would look closer by those 2 trees there. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Any member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'm going to close the public comment period. We don't necessarily need a closing statement from the applicant unless you chose.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Plan Commission, the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Did we have a second? Okay, motion and a second. Is there any Plan Commission discussion on this motion? Ms. Prop?
Just that the applicant has explained it very well, as did the staff. And so I understand why we're doing it this way, so I will be supporting it.
Any other discussion on this motion? Okay, I'm seeing none. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Belleville?
Aye.
Miss Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Miss Shireman?
Aye.
Miss Prop?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a specific implementation plan amendment for Merrill School Memorial located at 108 West New York Avenue and property located at the southwest corner of West Custer Avenue and Kentucky Street. City of Oshkosh Area School District is the owner and applicant. Have there been any site inspections? May add me as well. Thank you. Those are so noted. I'll accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
Thank you, Chairman. The subject site, or the subject area, consists of one parcel totaling 5.8 acres with frontage on West New York Avenue, Kentucky Street, and Central Street. The property is located at the former Merrill School site. The surrounding area consists of residential uses and the Bell Phillips Middle School to the west. The 2040 Comprehensive Plan recommends community facility for the subject site. In September 2024, Common Council approved a general development plan and a specific implementation plan for athletic facility at the subject site. With that approval, a condition was included for the memorial space to be reviewed by Planning Commission. The applicant is requesting amendment to that existing SIP for the Memorial School Memorial Space, or Merrill School Memorial Space. Plans were previously approved to demolish the Merrill School building for construction of that athletic facility. According to the applicant, the site will be primarily used for students from the adjacent school, but will also be available for general public to use. No changes are being proposed to the existing use of the site that was previously approved. The applicant is proposing a new memorial space to honor the former Merrill School along the northwest corner of West New York Avenue and Central Street. The memorial will include a concrete path, a garden area, a flagpole, 2 memorial benches, 3 memorial piers, and a carved memorial stone. The piers and the memorial stone will include features from the former Merrill School building. So here's a view of the memorial gardens from the south and the northwest. And then on this slide, the first image are plaques from the former Merrill School site that will be on each of the piers, and then as well as the carved stone and an existing memorial marker. Staff does not have any concerns with the proposed design of the Merrill School space or Memorial School space, which was also approved by the Wisconsin State Historical Preservation Office. Staff is also recommending a condition be applied to maintain the 20/20 corner vision triangle. A neighborhood meeting was also held on January 14th, 2025 with 1 neighbor in attendance. The neighbor did not voice any concerns with the proposed memorial. Staff recommends approval of the specific implementation plan amendment as proposed with the findings and conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you very much for your report. Plan Commissioner, do you have any technical questions to staff on this agenda item? Are there any technical questions to staff on this agenda item? Okay, I'm seeing none. I'm going to allow open and public comment, so I will open the public comment period. And is the applicant here, and do they wish to make a statement?
I'm Jim Fox, Director of Facilities, Oshkosh Area Schools, 1404 South Main Street. I do not have a statement, but I am here to answer any questions that you may have specific to this memorial.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Any member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'm going to close the public comment period. This is an opportunity for the applicant to make a closing statement if they so choose. So Plan Commission, the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All right, I'm seeing none, so let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Belleville?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Ms. Proth?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4 on the agenda is a comprehensive land use map amendment from light density residential to neighborhood commercial for property located at 1705 Oshkosh Avenue. Rolock LLC is the owner and applicant. Have there been any site inspections? Can add me as well. I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
Thank you. So this item was tabled from the January 7th meeting. The subject site is located at the southwest corner of Oshkosh Avenue and North Westfield Street. It is an existing residential property with a Victorian-style house and detached garage. The property is zoned single-family residential 5 district, and the 2040 comprehensive land use plan has the property slated for light-density residential land use. The surrounding area consists of commercial uses to the north, child care center to the east, and residential uses to the south and west. The applicant intends to use the existing house for offices, professional services, or individual office suites. And the commercial use of the property will require a comp plan amendment to neighborhood commercial, and that would be followed by a rezone to neighborhood commercial. And again, this was tabled at the last meeting as the applicant was not in attendance and Plan Commission did have some questions. Here's the conceptual site plan, again, keeping the house and garage and adding parking stalls. Staff is supportive of the proposed future land use amendments, as the neighborhood commercial land use designation being proposed is consistent with neighboring commercial land uses, specifically Davis Child Care Center to the east and the corporate business park to the north across Oshkosh Ave. Also, neighborhood commercial land uses are located on corner properties of many residential developed areas on commercially used streets throughout the city. So staff is recommending approval of the requested land use map amendment from light density residential to neighborhood commercial.
Thank you very much for your report. Plan Commission, do you have any technical questions for the staff? Any technical questions for the staff? I do have one. There was some talk about using some kind of screening or landscaping towards the neighbors. Has that been looked at or addressed in this plan or discussed?
It has not been discussed since the last meeting, but there are code requirements for buffer yards along the neighboring residential properties.
Okay. No other technical questions? All right, I'm seeing none, so this will open public comment as well, and I will open the public comment period. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to make a statement? Approach the podium, state your name and address for our records, please.
Will Steiner for Rolock LLC, 3220 Shorewood Drive, Oshkosh. I don't have much to add, but to answer questions. So to follow up on your question about the buffer.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
Sorry, so to follow up on the question about the buffer zone, I think at the workshop we talked about perhaps there being two types of buffers that are allowed, fencing or vegetation, and with berms. And so the use of those might differ on the south where vegetation might be more appropriate, and on the west where there's a driveway, a fence might be better than having trees and plants overhang the neighbor's yard. The other thing that is not really on the application, because I guess it doesn't really apply, but the alternative that we have in mind for using this property, if it's not rezoned for commercial, is to use it as residential as Airbnb or bed and breakfast type short-term rental. So we would still probably pursue the same type of parking lot and buffer areas.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this agenda item? Any members of the public that wish to speak? Approach the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Catherine Jackson, 1255 North Westfield. My property abuts the discussion property by about 140 feet on my northern boundary. So I would be 10 feet from a parking lot, which certainly doesn't make me very happy. Right now it's a very nice residential area. And all of a sudden I'm going to have a parking lot next door to my bedroom window. My question to the city is, we want to maintain and enhance our residential neighborhoods. And having a daycare across the street is totally different than having a business next door to me. I think it needs to be very much looked at as, what do we want to do with our residential neighborhoods? Do we want to be putting parking lots next door to people's homes? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak on this? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
My name is Robert Fox, and I live at 1235 North Westfield Street. I would like to reference the comprehensive plan that was developed by the City of Oshkosh staff and presented to home and business owners in the Oshkosh Avenue area a few years ago. At that meeting and presentation, the city representatives pointed out that the city wants to keep the south side of Oshkosh Avenue residential. Fast forward to today, and now the city wants to ignore what they included in their plan. As stated in the Plan Commission staff report, the proposed use is not consistent with the comprehensive plan and is not permitted in the SR5 district. What changed that the comprehensive plan is now being ignored? If you develop a comprehensive plan, explain to people what the plan includes, and then do not follow the plan, you lose all credibility with the citizens. Once you lose credibility with citizens, it is extremely difficult to regain it. The comparison that staff made with other land use in the areas are, in my opinion, skewed. As an example, they compared the applicant's house property to the Davis child care property. The Davis property is a special piece of property to be used for helping children. The original home opened in 1912. 52 years ago, when I moved into my home, there was a children's home on the property. Years later, that home was repurposed into a daycare and used until a new facility was built. Staff also used a comparison to the corporate business park to the north across Oshkosh Avenue. This is completely opposite of what the staff put in the comprehensive plan. As they said, the city, wants to keep the south side of Oshkosh Avenue residential. Why is the staff not fighting to protect the very plan that they developed? Staff also mentioned that there are other commercial properties on corners in residential areas. What they failed to mention is the heavy amount of traffic and at times congestion at the corner of Oshkosh Avenue and North Westfield Street. In the application, I read the comment, quote, "Our initial intention is to rent the building for," and it continued on, but end of quote. That word initial concerns me and should also be a concern for the Plan Commission. I would appreciate it if the Plan Commission would ask the applicant this question. Do you, any associates in your real estate firm, family members, or any people in any other businesses that you might have an interest in own any other property on the south side of Oshkosh Avenue? Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public?
Bob Kelly, 1245 North Westfield. I just have one question. It was always brought up that the property is deep. I don't know if anybody's aware, but there's a 60-foot lot on this when his property goes to the south before Kathy's house, and I never hear anyone talking about that. I wonder if that was incorporated into that corner lot or not. You see, it never shows it. But I've been on that street for over 50 years, and I know there was a 60-foot lot. So.
That's something that the Plan Commission can ask after their motion. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak? Approach the podium, please, and state your name and address for our records.
Good afternoon. My name is Paige Smoody, 1270 Locust Street. Our property, our backyard specifically butts against the property in question. Nearly 14 years ago, my husband, who's also here with me tonight, he and I purchased this home purposefully in a residential area. We did not want to be on a busy street. We did not want to be next to a commercial building. If this is to be passed tonight, our concern is on the saleability of our house should we decide to ever relocate or downsize. We're also concerned about how this may impact our taxes moving forward. If you do decide to move forward with this, we would graciously ask that a privacy fence be installed along the property line to protect our residential privacy. In addition to that, we were recently made aware that the same gentleman recently purchased a house that also abuts to our property, our backyard, that is 2 houses down from the house in question. My concern and my husband's concern is that if this is allowed to be turned commercial, such as what the other gentleman shared, what's to prevent this house from being torn down 5 years from now and a commercial building being put up? In addition, what's to prevent this gentleman from coming forth in any time in the future and asking for that additional house just purchased to be turned into commercial property as well? Like I said, both are abutting against our property. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Any other member of the public that wishes to speak? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'm going to close the public comment period and ask if the applicant has a closing statement they wish to make.
Yes, I just want to say that I'm sensitive to changes in the issues, and I'm very willing to work hard to make the transition between the property uses agreeable, I mean, as much as possible. And not just fences and vegetation, but I think the required lighting plans and so on, enforce that. So, but even so, I think I'm going to try to be as responsive as possible to the neighbors' interests.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, Plan Commission, the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any Plan Commission discussion on that motion? Mr. Kiefer.
So back in September 6th, 2022, we denied a motion for a similar property at 1529, 1539 Oshkosh Avenue. And that's a little bit further east of this property on the corner of Eagle and Oshkosh Avenue. And that precipitated the relook at this comprehensive plan for specifically the area to the south of Oshkosh Avenue. Everything from, I think, from Kohler Street, where the turn is made in the roundabout, all the way down to the river at Sawyer Street. At the time, we looked at potential uses for all the areas and had a lot of debate. The city planning office and I'm sure other offices looked at the proper uses, given everything else around this area of all the land. And it was, the comprehensive plan as you see it now was made up. We protected the commercial properties, we protected the residential areas. We did expand in an MR20 on the lower part of the map. We did change that to be zone commercial from residential. And again, a lot of time and effort went into that. And further going back, when we approved the TIF for this area, TIF number 35, TID 35, which is the both sides of Oshkosh Avenue, we specifically put into that TIF that the property owners along Oshkosh Avenue to the south were able to provide, participate in a facade building site improvement revolving loan grant program. The purpose of adding this to this TIF, and I remember being very much a part of that, was to enhance the residential areas and allow homeowners the opportunity to improve their facades, their roofs, their siding, windows, front porches, so that would fit in with the developments that were being done on the north side, and that the entire corridor could be upgraded over time. I don't know how much, if any, of the building facade improvements have gone on Oshkosh Ave, and I hope if there hasn't been, I hope that would get moving. There's money in the TIF for that specific purpose. So again, when this comes up, I'm thinking, why did we spend all this time developing this comprehensive plan and just to go ahead and change it because one property wants to be changed. And I am too concerned that they own one property down. What prevents them from buying other properties and coming back to this body to ask for even more changes to the comprehensive plan? So I will not be approving this or voting for this because I think it's against what we've already established and did a lot of work on creating, and we want to maintain residential areas in this area, and I hope that we can continue to do that with the comprehensive plan that we have already in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kiefer. Any other discussion on the motion from the Plan Commission? Ms. Prop?
Well, I was interested to hear that an alternative, if we vote this down, is an Airbnb or short-term rental. And I want to ask the staff, what kinds of regulations would there be on that? Would he have to be regulated with the parking lot?
Short-term
Still have
rentals.
some screening, or just tell us what kinds of regs there would be?
So short-term rentals, which are allowed for, is it, how many days in a year is that again?
Total rented is, I think, 180. Yeah. 180.
Yeah, short-term rentals are allowed for 180 days per year. Short-term rentals can use the property as is without requiring any additional parking or screening. If it were to change to a different use that's more year-round, then it would need to comply with current zoning. But again, the short-term rental can be left as a residential property.
And then he could install 4 uncovered parking spots by right as well.
Oh, okay.
But that would, if they did that, that would require screening in the rear, wherever around that parking lot area, or at the property line, with a minimum 5-foot tall fence or shrub, evergreen.
Okay, how would, I don't know how stringent, and I suspect not stringent, are the short-term rental regs. So no particular permit is required, or is it?
There is a permit required for short-term rentals. There's a state lodging inspection reports and I think a county health requirement.
Okay, but not necessarily, or yes, I think you said that if there were to be a parking lot installed,
Yes.
Then some regs kick in.
Correct, yeah. If they were to install additional parking for residential use or short-term rental use, it needs to be screened with fencing or hedges around it. But the short-term rental, again, could be used as is as a residential property.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this motion? Mr. Bone?
I think, Mr. Kiefer makes a good point, and 9 times out of 10, I'm probably, John and I are probably on the same page on that. I do think that we as the Plan Commission are endowed with certain abilities, and one of those is to take a look at that comprehensive plan every once in a while to determine whether or not it is an applicable situation to every individual property. The way comprehensive plans are created and the way consultants tend to create them is by coloring big blocks certain colors. And sometimes that, usually that works really well. But every once in a while, when you color with a big enough crayon, you're going to have that color go on certain things that may or may not necessarily be entirely appropriate to be colored that way. So for this particular parcel in this particular setting, I find myself looking at it as a little bit, it is a little bit of a tweener. It's a big lot at a signalized intersection, which tends to probably have more commercial characteristics from a configuration standpoint than it does your typical or traditional residential residential lot. Now, historically, obviously, it has been residentially used. It's currently zoned that way, so that kind of weighs in that other favor. I think in situations like this one, the way I tend to look at them is regardless of use, what is the best case scenario for an owner to continue to invest in that property? and what is in the best interest of that individual, individual property to not fall into disrepair and therefore spill out into the rest of that neighborhood. So my concern here being that, and let's keep in mind that we've already turned down a number of things on this site. The initial proposal for this site, when it came through, was I believe it was a quick service restaurant use. That's my recollection. The first thing that we saw on this way back was a use that is far more objectionable than what we're talking about now. So, and far more incompatible to the neighborhood. So I think if what we're looking at here is the mechanism that we have available to ourselves to recognize that every once in a while the comprehensive plan is not an infallible document, and we have the ability to make a tweak to it to make sure that the neighborhood, while potentially being used in a way that doesn't make everyone happy, can be sustainable over the long term by ensuring that the properties are properly invested in. I tend to probably come down on that side of the equation. We also have a mechanism available to us via our code that requires buffering when there are conflicts between a residential and a commercial use. Those are pretty well developed and they're pretty stringent. And whether that's berming, fencing, vegetation, whatever it is, light cutoffs at lot lines, stormwater requirements, things like that. Those are put in place to protect those neighboring properties when we do have this occasional commercial and residential conflict at hand. So I believe that our code does that well enough that in this situation, coupled with the petitioner's statement that he's hopeful to be a good neighbor here, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. I'm as uncomfortable probably about John is about saying, hey, we have a plan, let's throw it out the window. I understand that and I'm not insensitive to it. But I think in this individual specific instance, I'm probably a little bit more comfortable. Now, that's not said to try to convince John to change his vote or anything like that. I wouldn't do that. It's just my rationale for why I probably am going to support this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bellevue, did you have a comment?
Yeah, and I think that was great, and I think the petitioner's statement, he kind of laid his cards out on the table. It's all right. Are you going to become an Airbnb or a rental place, or are you going to become a place where businesses are going to be? And I'm thinking, all right. Well, if I live there, I probably want businesses, people that are probably going to be more long-lasting. I'll get to know them. I'll probably have a better relationship, rather than the rental crowd. You don't know who you're going to get. You don't know what the prices are going to be for that. Who's going to come there? Who's going to stay there? And you'll get people in and out. They might not be there they might be there at later times, or they might wake you up. Or businesses, typically they're going to close at a certain time, and you should have a good time at night. That's just kind of how I see it. So now you really have two choices here. And I'm thankful that he did lay it out. And I also want to give him the benefit of the doubt, hoping that he does, nice landscaping. He creates a buffer for the neighborhood. And he becomes a part of it. He doesn't just decide that I'm a commercial property, I'm against all of you. Like, you should be a part of it, and hopefully he takes that into consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Davy?
Like John, I do remember a very long discussion about what we were going to do along that corridor, and I don't disagree. However, with this one site, because it is on a corner, I also agree with Ed that it's perfect for commercial because there's the light. It doesn't look like a residential. It looks more like a commercial. I know that's not what we're changing it to specifically, but I do have a question. If we put an SIP on this, would it still be eligible for any portion of the TIF funds that are available for upgrades along that corridor?
We're going to have Kelly address that.
Sorry, Kelly.
Sure, no worries. The TID 35 is a city-initiated TID, so right now we have no development agreements with private developers for any TIF assistance in that area, so we would have to fully understand what they would be looking to do, and they'd have to come to the council and request funding through the form of a development agreement.
Is that normally what they would need to do for any kind of use of that TIF fund?
Yeah, if it's a commercial business, we would have to fully understand what they're requesting TIF assistance for. Mr. Kiefer had brought up the rehab, loans. That is something that we put in the project plan, but we do not have a program for that right now, because right now our main focus is saving funds to pay for the Oshkosh Ave Sawyer Street intersection reconstruction. So that's our priority project right now. So if the applicant would be interested in TIF assistance, they would have to request funding from the city and go through that process.
And that would apply to any homeowner on that or business owner on that entire
Business
stretch?
owner, yes. Like I said, the homeowner, we do not have the program set up for a loan program for homeowners right now.
Even though it was in the paperwork initially?
Correct. We put a lot of things in our project plan. That doesn't mean we have to do them from day one. Our priority was more or less the Oshkosh Ave, Sawyer Street intersection. And we
I totally agree.
Yeah, so that's what we're kind of saving money for, to try to pay for that.
Okay. My thought on this is still, it is on a corner. It is across the street from a lot of commercial stuff, and it's across from another non-residential place. I would support this, but I would also draw a line in the sand if any owner along the rest of that block was trying to change to commercial. I think that takes advantage of the fact that having a commercial property in a residential area is what we always used to do when people didn't drive everywhere and park, and we didn't have to have so many parking lots. It's a lot more sustainable, actually, to have a commercial something on every corner and then have your residences around it. So I would support it, but I would not support any other changes along that corridor.
Any other discussion on this motion? Ms. Shireman, or I'm sorry, Ms. Prop.
Well, I'm torn, and I was at the first workshop too, on this property. But because I do not want zone creep. That's what Margie referred to. Because once we take a bite out of this block, it's a strong possibility that some future owner would want to do that. And pretty soon all those residential properties are nibbled off. And maybe that's in the later on what we want, but right now we didn't. And I was with that, I'm with John, we were part of that zone change planning, plan amendment discussion. Let's say that this passes. Will the Plan Commission have a kick at the fencing, the buffering? Will we, or is that something that once it changes to a neighborhood commercial zone, we don't have any impact on?
So it still need to be rezoned to neighborhood mixed use. We could put a plan development overlay on it, which is that extra layer of review by Plan Commission and Council.
Okay, so we could insist that we have a plan development on it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Mr. Lowenstein.
I just want to make a note that it's a really unusual historic structure, and how do we get an owner to invest in it and keep it in its character? And so we all talk about this, having it as an upgraded office area, we might preserve what is an amazing old historic building as opposed to letting it degrade over time. So I would hope that this would encourage the owner to make it give it kind of preserve its historical character as much as you can. And so it's very unusual for this space, right? Every other house along the way is basically a single family house. This is essentially a 19th century mansion that we're trying to figure out how to repurpose for the 21st century. And I don't know what the right solution for it is, but having investment in that property in a significant way will be better for that corner and that neighborhood than sort of letting it languish even as an Airbnb rental property, right? Having a big investment in it, I think, would be good for that area and good for that house. So I think I'm supportive of this in the long term.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Bowen.
Just a question, because all we're doing here is a comp plan amendment from, essentially, from commercial to, or residential to commercial, do we have the ability, as part of what we're doing here, to stress that we would like to see it with the plan development, or is that sort of like, just leave it the way that it sits as proposed in what it is, and then eventually when we come through to do a rezone, then we'll have the ability to put that PD on it once it's rezoned?
Yes, once it's rezoned, would be the time to put that.
So we shouldn't worry about that now. We worry about that when it comes through as a rezone.
Correct.
And then the rezone then goes, so we would see like a rezone, a GDP, and an SIP probably on the same meeting, it would be my guess. Or like a rezone and then the GDP SIP on like the next meeting or something.
Correct. Yeah, once, if the comp plan is changed to neighborhood commercial, then after that's done, the rezone can come forward. They would likely then need to have it rezoned to neighborhood mixed use with a plan development overlay. At the same time, could bring their plans for GDP or GDP and SIP at the same time.
My guess is that this probably doesn't fit within any commercial zone, so it would require a PD regardless, is probably my guess.
If they can't meet each code requirement, it would then need a PD, and oftentimes we do recommend having a PD overlay when it is abutting those residential properties to add that extra layer of review.
Okay, so this is not something we need to do now. If we choose to go forward with this one, that's probably not appropriate to do at this point.
Correct, yeah, at the time of rezone.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kiefer.
So, as it currently stands, there's nothing that, if the homeowner came in tomorrow and wanted to demolish this structure and put up another housing, if it stayed residential, they could do that. So there's nothing really stopping the wrecking ball from coming, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential. But with the comprehensive plan change and the forthcoming zoning changes, the likelihood that this could be converted and torn down and a new structure being put up on that site is now allowable. New structure being commercial structure. Is that correct? Am I stating that correctly, or?
For it to be a commercial structure, yeah, they don't need to have the comp plan and the rezone. Right now, it could only be residential.
Any other discussion on the motion? I will add my comment as well. I do remember years ago sitting here with Mr. Kiefer, Ms. Davey, I think Mr. Bowen and Ms. Prop for sure, talking about the comprehensive plan. And what spurred that on was that development of the 1500 block. And I specifically remember that the issue with the 1500 block and what was going to be done there was there just wasn't enough space to put everything in that block, and it had the benefit of an alleyway behind it, and there still wasn't enough space to do that. And so when I see that there are concerns about the 1700 block and properties being bought up there, that appears on the map to have even less space in terms of lot depth than the 1500 block has. Plus there's no buffer of an alleyway, and so I would say that any development of those properties, or a majority of those properties, would not be deep enough to do anything serious with, even in a larger scale. So I'm comforted by that because we did go through that 1500 block almost ad nauseum on that issue there. Where I'm at with this, I'm still not entirely sure. I do think that, and I do see, unfortunately, buildings like this falling into disrepair quite often, and they actually ruin neighborhoods when they go into disrepair. And if we don't do something with it, that is likely what is going to happen. But at the same time, I do understand the neighbors and would, if this goes through, strongly encourage work with the neighbors to develop that buffer zone, that fencing or that vegetation or whatever the neighbors, the four abutting neighbors would wish in order to make this occur and be the best that it can be in that area. So that's where I stand on this right now. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I'm seeing none. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Belleville?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Ms. Proth?
No.
Vice Chair Kiefer?
No.
Chairman Perry?
No.
Motion carried 5-3.
Thank you very much.
One thing to note with this too is it does go to Common Council for 2 readings. The first reading at council will be March 11th, and then final vote would be March 25th.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the planning manager's report. Kelly?
First, we just wanted to note that on our next meeting will be on Wednesday, February 19th. The primary election is that 18th, so our election staff is going to be using this room, so we are meeting on Wednesday. So just to remind yourself that it's going to be on Wednesday. The second thing is the planning services manager update. We did hire somebody and they will be starting on March 17th. Her name is Kimberly Gierock, and she has a great planning background, and we're really excited for her to come and be part of our team. So just so you know, we did hire somebody and they will be starting on March 17th.
Okay, thank you very much. Last item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we have a voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.